The recording has started. I would now like to turn the microphone over to my esteemed colleague, Kathy. Kathy, the microphone is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Kathy and I work with the Office of Online Engagement and I'm very happy to be here today. Before the presentation starts, I'd just like to read the online accessibility statement, which serves as a reminder of resources available for our students. Your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible student experience. If there are aspects of your experience that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the Online Accessibility Center, or the OAC, as soon as possible at 866-305-9430. And you can also email the OAC at oac@snhu.edu or visit the Online Accessibility Center's website. And I would now like to introduce our wonderful presenters. Joining us today, we have Kelsea Ranfo. Kelsea is currently working with the Learning Development Team as a Quality Assurance Analyst and the Co-Advisor for the Communications Club in SNU Connect. Also joining us, we have Amanda Ippolito. Amanda currently serves as an Academic Advising Team Lead for SNHU's Global Campus, and she is also the Co-Advisor to the Law and Disorder Club on SNU Connect. Thank you, Kelsea and Amanda, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hi, everyone. I can't contain my excitement, actually, truthfully, to let you all know. Kelsea and I are so excited to be able to present to you this year at the LEADS conference. This is our actually second time presenting, and I'm really excited that we're virtual and so many of you get to join us today on this Thursday afternoon. So, you were all brought here to hear about growth mindset in the High Performer, our little how-to guide. So our workshop is going to help you understand growth mindset and high performance to achieve personal and professional goals. Persevering through obstacles, being intentional, and receiving feedback are the pillars of growth mindset, which will help you in all aspects of your life. Kelsea and I surely can attest to that. From career to family, you're going to walk away with practices to continue your journey of high performance. We're going to take a look at Brendan Bouchard's framework for high performance, as well as dive into Dr. Carol Dweck's mindset, the new psychology of success. And by diving in and adopting this research, it's going to help provide an understanding of how to show up with a growth mindset in each interaction of your life.
All right, guys, we have a game plan. So what we're really going to need from you is an open mind, right? There's a reason why you signed up for this. Something spoke to you about wanting to be here. And that open mind is really either going to be a starting point for you when we talk about growth mindset, where you are at in the journey, building off of. Wherever you're at, we really want you to be vulnerable, mostly with yourself, because that's where growth comes from. And during this session, we're really going to focus on ways that are meaningful to you to start putting this into practice. So the thing about growth is that it looks different for every single person. And each path, barrier, experience, that all looks different. So if you came to this hoping that you're going to leave with the secret that no one told you, some sort of secret sauce, I would encourage you to really think about what you need in this moment to reach your highest performance. What are some of your goals? And if you don't know what that is right now, that's okay. I would encourage you to start thinking about it so that when we put paper and pen together, or you're typing notes on your computer, or you're engaging in the polls, this is going to be an ongoing thing. So this, at 4 o'clock, we're going to sign off and we're going to go, live our lives. This is something that you're going to have to work at consistently and show up for yourself. So when you're writing stuff, make sure that when you go back to it, at 4:30 tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning, whatever works for you, you're able to rethink and kind of put yourself back in that place to open up that conversation with yourself. So we're going to put up a poll now, and even though you don't have a goal in mind yet, or if you do, that's great, we really want to hear from you. What are you hoping to gain or learn from this experience, right? We talked about the we talked about what, the explanation is for this whole thing, and to have a starting point of where we need to build from. I'm ready for you, Gail, if you want to put that on, and we can start hearing from you specifically about what are you hoping to walk away with? What is something that's on your mind? What are one of your goals? What are one of the habits you want to create? And this is kind of where that vulnerability and open mind starts coming in. Free time.
Having free time. Comes at a premium.
Enjoying life, building relationships.
Building relationships.
Your habits. Wow.
These are so good. Love this.
Strategies for growth. A better way of thinking how far I've come. Wow, that's great. Passionate. Really great reflective work there, right? We never stop learning. These are some great, whether it's a starting point for you or if it's something that you're continuing, these are really great reference points, and I really appreciate your vulnerability of putting that out there. And for clarification too, me and Amanda do have 2 young children, so when people talk about time and work-life balance, we get a lot of those messages, so we get that.
These are so great. And I would certainly encourage you, as you shared in our chat, so that we could be privy to those answers, write them down for yourselves. A huge portion of this is really being, like Kelsey said earlier, being able to reflect on what those goals are, what you want to achieve, and how to move forward with those goals. So, you talked a lot about building a positive outlook, building growth mindset. How do you free up some time in your day? How are you building relationships intentionally with potentially coworkers or classmates, peers? Some of the questions that we had put together to get your brain start thinking in this way is just, the person I really want to be in life could be described as. How do you answer that for yourself? What is your mission and vision for yourself? As companies, oftentimes there's a clear mission and vision, and every decision is filtered through that mission and vision. What are you doing for yourself that you're able to filter all of those decisions day to day with your career, with your schooling? How are you filtering it through that goal? You'll be more confident when? What does that look like in you? Things that you need to learn to say no to more often. I think Kelsey and I both can attest to, what's the priority? How do you start putting yourself as that priority and being confident and saying no, which is really difficult, at least for me. I'll speak for myself. Something we'll definitely start to circle back to throughout this presentation is how you're viewing failure. That plays a huge part in growth mindset and being a high performer. So how are you viewing failure on a day-to-day, whether that's within your personal life, with its, your career or your schooling? And I saw a couple answers around your online education. How are you viewing that failure? How are you persevering and moving forward? So.
All right, so growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So let me start it off with a story. Not my story to share, more research-based. But we all know Michael Jordan, right? Arguably the most athletic, most talented athlete out there. But I think what we don't talk about is, what we recognize him for is this immaculate man, right? But he was actually cut from his varsity basketball team. And he wasn't recruited by the college that he wanted to attend. And he wasn't first draft NBA pick. He was passed up by the first 2 teams. So when you talk about a fixed mindset, it's the belief that your qualities can't be changed, right? You see a wall and you stop at the wall and you turn around and you do something else. But since you believe these qualities are a permanent part of who you are, you feel the need to constantly prove yourself. So I wanted to share like a simple example to kind of put it into context. I am really great at drawing stick people. All throughout high school and college, I can happily draw a stick person. But if someone says, you know what, Kelsey, I want you to draw a self-portrait, or draw your house, or draw your family, or draw a flower, let's be real, I will start sweating. I'm like, I can't do that. There's no way, right? I have a fixed mindset about that. Growth mindset is that I can learn to draw well, right? I could take classes. I could watch tutorials. I could put time into my schedule to make that a priority. I could look at different artists. I could reach out to different artists. I could get their feedback about how they practiced, right? So the growth mindset is about being very intentional with how much time, effort, and ability you're putting towards that. So in a fixed mindset, everything is really about the outcome, right? So another vulnerability, I'm really not that great at math, right? Fixed mindset about that. I failed that math test in high school, and I've determined I'm not good at math. But what if I stopped and said, what if I studied harder? What if I worked with my instructor more? What if I met with a peer who is actually really great in this area, right? So the growth mindset is really that our qualities can be changed through nurtured effort. You know, we may believe that people are born with different gifts and interests or temperaments, but everyone can change. So I'm going to turn over to Amanda because we're going to talk about right now, where are you at, right? You might be like, well, I don't know where, if I have a growth or a fixed mindset. So let's talk about it.
Kelsey and I are both moving the presentation at the same time, if that's what you're saying. I got it, Kelsey. Sorry. Oh, man. Okay, so start to look at these sentences, these statements, and really start to determine, okay, I align with this versus I align with this. Gail, you can move it actually into the poll. The same sentences, the same statement. So what we want to hear is where people are feeling. What are the sentences that you are feeling most strongly towards?
And you can pick a few. You can pick one that stands out more.
Mm-hmm. So I'll give you a minute to answer those. Oh, I love that, Marcy.
Hard work and dedication will take you places. Lori, if you click on the bubble, it should put in your vote. Love that.
Love this. Oh no, Lori. Sorry. Well, we'll move it along. So what we really wanted to gauge is where you are all at in regards to fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So the statements that are the first, second, and fifth statement, so people have a certain amount of intelligence, no matter who you are, there isn't much you can do to improve, or people either have a particular set of talents. That's more fixed mindset, which not many of you fall in line with. So we're in a good space. 3, 4, and 6, so you can learn new things and improve your intelligence. Studying, working hard, and practicing new skills are ways to develop. Those are more in line with a growth mindset of like what Kelsea shared in being able to kind of change your way of thinking and take some feedback and be able to move forward with whatever goal you set forth. Love that. Okay, so now we're going to move back to the presentation. So you'll be able to see the statements again. Kelsea and I, when creating this presentation, we wanted to give you another little story, and I will give you the disclaimer. It's a little more morbid, so just walk through it with me. Our mind is a really powerful organ in our bodies, and it really can function. It really functions and provides us our perception. So in line with that, the story goes, there was a man who gets trapped in a freezer, and this man, knowing that it was a freezer, knew that he was doomed. And he ended up freezing to death is the short of the story. The long of the story is that in reality, the freezer was only set in the 60s. So there was no scientific reason that he should have frozen to death. But because his mind was so powerful and he knew that he was trapped in this freezer, he froze. And that's a true story. We didn't make this up, I promise. It was in the book. It just goes to show you, or we're trying to show you, that I often think about manifesting. This is a tangent that I walk with me through it. But manifesting, it's really coming up with a goal and thinking about it and working towards that goal, because your mind is so powerful that if you believe it, you can achieve it. Something in high school that always was said to me on the sports, in sports, if we go back to our Michael Jordan reference, if you can believe it, if you can dream it, achieve it, and believe it. So things to take away from this are just that the thoughts that you come to whatever situation with is going to become your reality. So when we're coming to different challenging situations, or maybe I think where growth mindset shows up a lot in my work is a change comes down the pipeline. How are you going to be a positive change agent when that change happens to get other people on board and make sure it's a smooth transition? How are you guys doing that in your work situations or your schooling? You're coming up against a challenge. How do you persevere and move forward positively?
All right, guys. Not sharing anything you don't know. Failure is not a permanent condition, right? I failed my test. I'm no longer good at it. I'm done trying. Let's talk about the people who would have seen failure differently that we know today. J.K. Rowling. She was famously rejected by a mighty 12 publishers before Harry Potter. I mean, if you're a Harry Potter fan, did you guys know that? I mean, 12 times, right? She was told no. She kept showing up for herself. She kept taking the feedback and readjusting. Disney. I mean, I don't know about you, but my kids love Disney Plus, right? So Disney was turned around by 302 times before he got financing for creating it. And, I mean, look at it. It's amazing. 104 times Albert Einstein didn't speak until he was 4 and didn't read until he was 7. He was behind, right? But he went on to win a Nobel Prize and became the face of modern physics. He was in a different starting spot than many people, but look what he came to do. Dr. Seuss, right? Our kids, us, we love Dr. Seuss 27 times. So for the book, to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street was rejected by 27 different publishers. He had to keep showing up, keep trying. Thomas Edison, if I find 10,000 ways something won't work, I haven't failed. I'm not discouraged, because every wrong attempt discarded is another step forward, right? These are stories. And can you think of a time where maybe you thought something you couldn't accomplish? You thought it was impossible. It felt so out of reach. Can you think of a time where you were in that space? Guys, we're in a quarantine. We're in a pandemic. You might be working double shifts. You may be staying home with your kids. You may be in your apartment. What we're going through right now is really hard, right? You may be starting new courses. You may be in a new career. These are all different things that are barriers and struggles. Guys, the things that matter are hard, right? We can't see them as failure. There's certain environmental things that we can't change, right? And then think for a second on the flip side of that. Can you think of a time where maybe you were in the workforce, or maybe you were in class, or maybe you were in a family dynamic where someone outdid you, right? I don't want anyone to kind of show too much emotion right there, right? Someone outdid us. We have a lot of feelings around that, right? And you just assumed that maybe they're better or smarter or more talented than you, right? Maybe they're just better. But whatever they're better in, now consider the idea that they use better strategies. They taught themselves more. They practiced harder and worked their way through obstacles. Guys, you can do that. You can do things that are hard. How do you view failure? For me, I can be very, very hard on myself. And me and Amanda didn't start this journey of growth mindset and view of failure because we've mastered it. We started it because it's still things that show up in our daily lives, right? But how do we put ourselves in a place to really overcome that and be able to step forward? You know what? It's not failure. It's actually an opportunity to learn over here. And these are the things that I can work now that I got that feedback or that answer, or I'm reflecting, right? So you can do all of that. So really thinking about, how do you view failure? How can you overcome a lot of those obstacles?
Okay, now we have a growth mindset. How do we push forward to be a high performer? The one thing that Kelsey and I actually, a catalyst to our workshop today was a podcast that she had found. Someone had shared with her, and she shared with me, and then I couldn't stop listening to it. And I think the thing that I really took away from it was that as a high performer, it's something that you personally can achieve. It doesn't have anything to do with your gender or where you are in work or, your background circumstances. It is tangible things that you can take away, begin working on, and start implementing in your life, truthfully. So when you have these 6 different components, you are more likely to become a high performer. It's all dependent on what your goals are. Is your goal to become the CEO? Is your goal to complete your degree? Is your goal to have some more free time? I think Kelsey and I would agree with that. Your goal, some of your goals were to have growth mindsets. How do you start working on that in your day-to-day life? I saw Fitness Journey, some health, nutrition, better nutrition. So learning a new skill is another one. So starting to build those things into your life. So my reference is going to be getting to the next level at work, because I think for me that's an easy reference point. So I'll walk you through a little bit about what I'm doing. So first and foremost, it's really being intentional with what your goal is, as I've said, keeping that as a thread throughout your day-to-day and continuing to check in and persevere. So number 1, seeking clarity. What does that mean? It means, as I just said, being intentional, having an understanding of what you want. When we listen to the podcast, being about high performers, it talks a lot about, one of the things was, high performers can give you, off the bat, 3 words that they want to be known as. What are those? They can rattle those off quick and easy. Non-high performers have a harder time. They kind of fumble through what they want to be known as. And the example they shared was around Netflix. You know, a high performer is more likely to go onto Netflix, say, okay, I'm in the mood for a comedy. Here's that new Adam Sandler flick that's on Netflix. And they're good to go and they watch the movie. Non-high performers, or not, we'll call them non-high performers, they are more likely to scroll and scroll and scroll and probably fall asleep on the couch because they could never pick from the array of options that they have on Netflix. So when thinking about those three words, something that actually happened to me recently was working with one of my AVPs, one of my big bosses, and she's a trusted mentor of mine, and she actually said to me, like, what are the three words that you want to be known for as a leader? And I was like, okay, Amy. And I sat with it because I just wasn't there yet. I really needed to think about the things that I want to be known for as a leader. So I ended up coming with, I'll share with you, to Kelsey's point, be vulnerable in this session. My three words were worthy, authentic, and intentional. Those are the three words that I want my people to know for me. That's me as a leader. So start to think about those. What are those things for you? What are those three words that you want to be known for with whatever goal that you have? For me, it's moving up in this company. So I want people to know me as a leader and what I want them to know. Next, generating energy. What's the buzz that you have? Where is that, veracity when it comes to whatever goal that you have? Raising necessity. All of these, in reading the book it was a thread. They all intertwine. They all function together as one. Raising necessity, people who are setting goals regularly and self-monitor them, that's the important thing, are 2.5 times more likely to obtain that goal. How are you intentionally setting that time in your day to keep checking back in? Are you developing influence? And I'm going to use demonstrating courage alongside each other. So in organizational settings, in regards to developing influence, the greatest thing that you can provide to others is trust, autonomy, and decision-making authority. For me, it's really about figuring out who your allies are and go with me in my thinking. It sounds a little weird, but, in working on this presentation for Kelsey and how I used her as my trusted ally to say, you know what, this would be a great presentation to share with students. How can we collaborate together? How can we build influence together to then be able to provide to you all in this presentation? Our passion aligns, and that is where I'm able to develop that influence as the leader I want to be. Demonstrating courage. Giving this presentation, I can't tell you how many times that we have practiced and used each other of like, how does this sound? How does that sound? A quote that came from the book that really spoke to me, and I would say Kelsey too, I'm going to speak for her. Something that really stuck out for me is, courage is not fearlessness. It is taking action and persisting despite that fear. I always, throughout my life, have felt like things can be really scary, as presenting to over 80 of you can be. Ripping off that Band-Aid. In my mind, I literally had to say to myself, okay, time to rip off that Band-Aid. How's it going? Let's just do this. So, okay, now it's time. Let's think, now that I've given you these high performance habits, we want you to think about, what are those three words? What are those three words that are for you?
And like Amanda was sharing, you might have to put a lot of time into this to think about what are those three words that really resonate with you that you want to show up as. Amanda, how long did you say? It took you a few weeks, maybe.
Oh, yeah. It was about a month that it took me to really, and I had a bunch of different words. Some of them meant the same thing, and I had to wean it down.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, I love team player. That's such a good one. It's okay if you don't have them yet. Like Kelsey just pointed out, it took me a month to come up with that and really hone in on who I want to be as a leader, and honestly using other people in my organization to say like, "Oh, that felt weird. I don't know that I want to be like that. That doesn't come off as authentic. I want to be authentic in my communication and how people view me, and I want them to know that when they come to me, what they see is what they're going to get." Just as you guys are right now.
Yeah. And if you don't know too, like I'm at 3 okay words that I would say, but I'm not like ready to share them yet. Right? So these might be things that you're constantly thinking about, and you change, right? You grow. So these words might grow with you. Or, you know, in another year you might be like, actually, I feel like I'm okay with this one. I want to actually implement a new word, right? So whether this is a starting point or a building off point, like, you know, these are things that we're working on as well.
Mm-hmm. Love this. Now, like we said, don't forget to write these down too. So you keep these. Keep these on the forefront of your, you know, whatever you're working on, whether it's you're at your laptop, you're sitting down to do some homework, have them on your computer. You know, happiness, empathetic, reliable. Keep those there so that they're always fresh in your mind. I think one of the things that Brendan shared in the podcast, he would have people set reminders in their phone so that it would pop up on their notifications to have those 3 words for people to mentally check in and say, okay, do I align still with these 3 words? Am I acting in line with where I want to be?
Guys, these are really, really great. Ethical, authentic, responsible, honest, intelligent, motivated. I mean, I love it, love it, love it. All right.
Okay. Now we're going to practice what we preach a little bit. So we're going to move to just video. We're going to take this away, and so you just see us.
All right, guys. So if you're able to, please stand up. Part of being a high performer, which we're going to learn, is taking breaks. I'm standing up already, right? But if you need to sit, please sit. Be accommodating as you need, okay? This is not to feel stressful. If people are watching you and you feel uncomfortable, that's another thing. I feel uncomfortable because I'm the only one and I can only see myself, so who knows if I'll do something ridiculous. But we're going to start, right? So we're just going to shake it out, shake out our arms. We're going to take a break because as we will learn, high performers take a break every 52 minutes, right? So this is our break. So we're going to take 3 deep breaths. You can close your eyes, you can leave them open. Let's do one more breath. All right, we're going to put out our arms. And this is also in the podcast too, and they do an extensive version of this. This is just a little bit shorter. But we're going to start tapping, right? We're literally, what Amanda just said, we're generating energy where our nerves are, right? We're putting it to practice. We're tapping it out. We've just been sitting at our desk for 6 hours. We've been chasing kids. We've been doing whatever.
Oh.
Yeah. Right? So let's do this. This is for us, right? We're going to tap. Tap your shoulders. Remember to keep taking deep breaths. We're going to go over and we're going to tap our backs. You can't really see me, sorry. A little short. Tap your backs. Generate energy there, right? Sitting does a toll on our bodies. Let's wake it up a little bit. Maybe do some of your hips and your legs. I don't know about you, but I'm already feeling a little bit better. All right. Are we good? If you guys want to keep doing this, you definitely can, right? This is all something that you can practice throughout the day. But we'll switch back to the presentation. But, you know, this is something that you can do every 52 minutes. Just take a break. And by taking a break, I don't mean checking Instagram, checking your phone, responding to your partner, you know, those things you still need to do. But this is a break for you. So high performance, unlocking your potential. All throughout my professional career, I've been told, you have great potential. You have great potential. And I was like, is there a secret that nobody is telling me? Like, what is my potential? And through this research, I found that only you know your potential. Nobody knows my potential. No way. Because what potential comes from, it comes from growth. It comes from stepping outside that comfort zone, breaking down barriers, right? So let's put stats to that. On average, the world's most productive 1% of people take a break every 52 minutes. Guys, we're already a step in the right direction. We just took a break, closed your eyes, right? Got the jitters out. Meditation, exercise. I meditated for 10 minutes before I hopped in here, right? I need to get my mind straight. I need to feel relaxed. Presenting can feel, it can create a lot of nerves. Some of you are like, no, I can present. Some of you are like, you would not see me up there, right? It's all about what your comfort level is. Meditate. Take a deep breath. Visual fatigue is a real thing. I don't know if you guys know, like I shared earlier, we're in a pandemic, right? We're in front of our screens more than ever. Take a break. Get at 52 minutes. Balance. Take deep breaths. Do it for 10 times. Talking 3 to 5 minutes. Close your eyes. High performers work out 5 times per week, and that's 40% more likely than an underperformer. So what are you doing? Are you waking up? Are you meditating? Are you stretching? Are you running? Do you do CrossFit? I mean, you don't have to do CrossFit, right? Are you going for walks? Are you taking your dog out? This can look different for you, but how are you moving your body? And it doesn't have to be something that feels stressful, right? Maybe it's a 30, 45-minute walk after dinner with your family or by yourself, or, putting in some music and just canceling it out, I'm not going to share things that you don't know. Somebody put up nutrition, right? We need to work on our nutrition. I know I do. But did you know what you put in your body today has effects from 3 days from now? So when you're thinking those Saturday night, Sunday afternoons, maybe having, some adult beverages, chips and dip, going for the Snickers and the candy bar, that's going to show up. And so I'm not saying don't indulge in those things because they're quite delicious, don't get me wrong. I love a Snickers, especially on a summer day. But that's going to show up for me. So, Tuesday, when I come back to work and I'm feeling sluggish and tired, I can reflect and say, man, I really did not take care of my body. I really did not put that energy where I needed to. Sleep. We are moms of 2 young kiddos, right? Sleep can be very inconsistent for us. So we may be tired or irritable on any given day. But it's consistency for us. So even though we might be waking up at 1, 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever, I'm still going to bed between 9 and 9:30 at night. I'm still waking up at 5 or 5:30 to start my day. I have to be consistent because that's what my body needs, right? What are your bodies telling you that you're not giving into yet, right? Is your alarm going off at 5:30, but your body actually woke up at 5:10? You're like, oh, just 20 more minutes. Yeah, that's your body telling you I'm ready to wake up. Listen to that, right? Guys, care for yourself. It shows up on the scoreboard. I'm not sharing light, earth-shattering information. You guys know this, right? Got to put it into practice. Put that pen to paper. Write down a few things that you're going to do. So let's talk about this, right? High performers can go much longer, right? They're exercising, they're feeling their bodies, they're getting good sleep. We're going to have environmental factors, barriers, right? Those things happen. How are we going to overcome them? In an 8-hour workday, you should be taking a 52-minute break oh my gosh, my words. Every 52 minutes, please take a break. Let's say that. And so when you look at the person next to you, it's not that they're smarter or better than you. They're probably taking more breaks than you. And I'm not saying, be a slacker sitting on your phone. I mean, we all have those moments, don't get me wrong, but take a break, close your eyes, take deep breaths. Because that's why tomorrow the people next to you are showing up more clear. They're ready. We think taking a break is failure. It's not. It's sharpening. We got to do that for ourselves. I hope something I just shared resonates with you because there's a lot of stats in that. And this is just one way to really start building that high performance and that energy for yourself.
All right. We're going to start thinking about feedback. As with having a growth mindset, being a high performer, it's all about self-reflection and moving forward. How are you taking in information, and how are you bringing that forth into whatever project and goal that you are working with? So what we want you to do in the next minute or so is think about someone who inspires you. Think about someone who you feel is a trusted person who can give you feedback. Kelsey and I were talking earlier, and I was joking around with her that I also told my husband this, and he didn't think I was as funny, but you know, I can't go to my husband for trusted advice when coming, or trusted feedback, I should say, when saying, how does this look? He shared with me that it's always calculated. On days that we need to get out the door, he's, you know, taking view into what my body language is sharing with him, and he's going either way. That's not trusted. That's not someone trusted to give you advice on what you're wearing. So when I think about a trusted ally in regards to who's going to provide you feedback, I actually use Kelsey in a lot of ways for our parenting. We both have a daughter and a son around the same age, and they're little friends, and it's adorable. And I'm able to say to her, like, Kelsey, my daughter won't stop biting kids at school, and she's able to say to me, Amanda, it's okay. That's developmentally appropriate for her to be doing. And I just am able to use her. Using sounds so wrong, but it's true. She's able to provide me that truthful feedback to say, like, even if it wasn't developmentally appropriate, she would be able to say back to me, you know what, maybe think of X, Y, and Z. Maybe you could try X, Y, and Z with her to get her to this next stage in her life. So who is it for you? So for me, as I was talking to you all earlier, in trying to move up eventually within my role, I use one of my AVPs, Amy. She's a trusted ally and feedback giver for me. I often use her. Something happened last month, and she challenged me to come up with a goal for our team. And I was like, okay, Amy, I got you. And I came back to her, and I said, here's the plan. And with one word or one sentence, she essentially said, okay, that's great long term, but what are you going to do today? What are you going to start implementing today that gets you there? And I sat there and was like, no, that's a good point, Amy. Great. And changed my entire approach. And you know what? We crushed it, because I was able to take in that feedback in the moment and adjust and move forward and crush the goal that her and I had set forth. So we're going to move over to a poll. Let's think about, who are your trusted providers of feedback? Do you have them?
Yeah, is it an instructor or a mentor, friend, husband? Is it somebody you spoke to through SNU Connect? Is it somebody who you met on a train one time? Like, who are you connecting with that can give you that feedback that is transparent, right? We need that transparent feedback of, you didn't show up the way you wanted to. Was that your intent, right? Who are those gut checkers for you?
Mm-hmm. It's so helpful not to have someone who's just going to yes you, because they're not helping you grow professionally or personally, wherever you want to go. I know we talked about fitness journeys. You know, who do you have as an accountability partner? Is that an accountability partner going to say to you, like, oh, it's okay, you'll get it next day? Or are they going to push you and say, like, hey, you still have an hour left of your day. What are you going to do to crush that workout? I love, someone put in here, I saw, personally yes, professionally no. So how do you find a trusted person for feedback, a trusted provider of feedback? Maybe it's your boss. How do you start building those relationships with people? Maybe it's a coworker. You know, Kelsey and I are coworkers, and, you know, we use each other in that way as well, also personally and professionally. But How do you start building relationships and starting to suss out who can provide you feedback to challenge your thinking, to push you to grow, and honestly to challenge you to have a growth mindset? How do you challenge yourself to think positively and persevere and have some grit?
Mhm.
Oh, I love that. Your son. Not yet. Not yet is okay. It's okay. I think starting to think this is the building blocks to what you plan to do after this session.
And what are you going to say? That's where that vulnerability piece comes in. What's your goal? What's your mission? And maybe going to a person that you trust or you're building a relationship with and say, can I share with you some of my goals? Because I could really utilize your feedback because I've seen you demonstrate this skill that I really want to obtain in my career. People are going to latch on to that. You're not going to have a mentor say like, you're crazy, no way. They're going to want to help you in that way, especially when you're giving them a compliment that they have a skill that you want to get, right? You want to build and you want to grow, right? So share it with a compliment. What questions are you asking? This is my goal. This is something I've seen myself do and I want to get out of that habit. What are tips and tricks that I could probably try, right? And sometimes people are going to give you feedback that you don't like. And what do you do with that, right? You're going to have to pick and choose. You're going to have some mental strength to be like, you know what? I appreciate your feedback. Maybe not right there, but I appreciate your feedback, but this one's going to go for later, right? This is the one I want to work on right now because you might not be there yet. And that's okay. But I love what you guys are sharing. Running partners are the best. It's like, you get everything out there, but family, friends, professors, classmates, grandfather, that stuff's powerful, guys. What questions are you asking them, right? All right, I think we're good with the poll. We're going to go to the next slide, right? We talked about growth mindset. We talked about fixed mindset. We talked about high performance. You get it. Now what, right? You're gonna sign off at 4 o'clock. What do I do? Create a new compelling belief about yourself. What's your mission? What's your vision? What's your focus? What's your goal? What are you gonna work on? View failure in a different light. Guys, you're gonna falter. You're gonna trip up. You're gonna make mistakes. How do you overcome those? How do you reflect and get there? How do you cultivate your self-awareness so that if you didn't show up your best self, what are you going to do next time, right? That publisher shot you down. What are you going to do with the next publisher that you might, that you got feedback from this one? Be curious and commit to lifelong learning. Many of you might be in classes. It doesn't have to be. It could be reading articles. It could be listening to podcasts. It could be looking at different YouTube videos. I love YouTube. That's where I get my meditation. That's where I get a lot of my workouts from, right? You can get a lot of those learnings. What are your scholars? What are you looking at? Be friendly with challenges. Like I was just sharing, you're going to hit them. You're going to get challenges. We're in a pandemic. How can anything not be challenging right now, right? But do what you love and love what you do. If you're constantly thinking, is this where my passion is? Is this where my passion is? Yes, there are building blocks to get to where you need to go. But what do you love doing? Be tenacious. Inspire and be inspired by others. Who's inspiring you today? Reach out to them. Tell them, you are amazing, and I love the way that you show up here, and you inspire me to really start working on that. Is it an author? Is it someone you've never met before who just happens to have a famous name? If you send them an email and discuss their impact on you, you might not get a response, but you shared it. And who knows, you might get a response, right? How are you putting yourself out there? How are you being inspired? So I leave you with that. These are things that you can work on, pen to paper. I hope you're looking at your paper and saying, I wrote down a lot of great things that I need to start thinking about. What are you fine-tuning? Who are you reaching out to? You have a lot of great things here, and you are great. You're amazing. So how are you going to start working on that goal, working on that skill, getting that feedback? Guys, you can do it.
here are our resources. Now we have about 9 minutes left. So like Kelsey and I have said, this is the podcast that we use to get most of our, well, not most of our information, but that really inspired us to come up with this workshop and presentation for all of you. The High Performance Habits book and the Mindset book as well, along with these references. We would love to connect with you all over in SNU Connect in the next couple weeks. I know they're going to tag us, so please, we'd love to chat with you over there. But now we're going to open it up to more of a Q&A if you have any questions for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda and Kelsey. And we're now going to open up, as Amanda just mentioned, for questions, and we'll share reflections through the chat box. So we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can with the remaining 8 or so minutes we have left. Awesome. So the first question we have is, how do you keep a positive attitude during a stressful time like working during a pandemic?
I don't know that we are always positive during a global pandemic. I think for me, at the very least, I'll speak to me, it's understanding what is in my control. What is in my control, what can I control, and filtering everything through that. So whether, maybe it's, honestly, Kelsey and I have both had challenges with working and having our children at home. It's been really difficult. How do you keep positive in those arenas? And yeah, it's not easy. This is not easy work, but it's being intentional about how you want to show up
and again,
day-to-day.
moving your body. I know for me, I literally feel like I'm about to just get Hulk sometimes when I'm so stressed, right? So moving my body, running, good nutrition, good sleep, right? I'm fueling myself with all the right things. Stress is going to happen. It is. How are we dealing with that?
Thank you. We have another question. If you don't really have a trusted person at work, how do you go about finding a mentor?
That's a really great question. If you don't have a trusted person at work, who are you speaking to? Who are your coworkers? Who is sitting along beside you? Is there anyone in that realm? And if not, are there people in other departments in your organization that you could connect with? Kind of seeking that out. I mean, depending on where you work, you might see people who are doing certain things in their work. Is it something that's resonating with you? Is it a skill that you want to have? What if you just reach out to them? What if you just send them an email, right? It's just kind of getting out of that comfort zone. How do you start that communication? Because you're right, you might not have a relationship with them yet, but how do you get there?
I think something too that we foster here at Southern New Hampshire as employees is really going to, where do you want to be in the organization and reaching out to those people for coffee. Granted, not right now, but can you get on a video chat for a half an hour and just talk about how they got to that space and sharing your interests and your passions and why you want to get to their level. And I think starting to build those relationships helps start providing that trusted ally at work for you, or hopefully it will.
Absolutely. Thank you. We have another question. So how do you take enough breaks? Oh, sorry about that. How do you take enough breaks with a job that only allows breaks every 2 hours?
Every 2 hours. So you only have breaks every 2 hours. So I think a 3-minute break, if you have enough time to use the bathroom with the autonomy, then you have enough time to take a 3-minute break to move your body. Just to, even if it's closing your eyes, if it's standing up, if you have to walk to the bathroom and walk back and not actually go, right? How are you kind of being creative at those spaces? Because, I mean, we get half-hour breaks and we get a few pockets here and there, but in between meetings, are you opening a window and, putting your head out there? Are you stepping outside? What are those pieces that you can kind of be creative and put in there?
Thank you. So do you have suggestions for influencing others who do not have a growth mindset, especially when they are company execs?
That's tricky by all accounts. I think it depends on where you are in the company, and honestly, it's hard, I think, for us because we live in such a company that questioning the status quo is something that is encouraged and celebrated here. So I think it's really about how you're providing that feedback to them, understanding that, yes, they may take it or not. I think it's the way you're presenting it, so whatever the change or challenge is, starting to provide a different perspective and saying like, hey, I really appreciate, starting with the positive, I really appreciate whatever this change is. I'd love to hear, this is what I was thinking. Do you think this could happen as well? I'll have so many great questions.
We have about 3 minutes left. So the next question, the student wanted to share that you guys both rock and that the student really loved this, so thank you. So the question is, how do you seek feedback from peers if they've not been able to see your everyday interactions at work? And would you be asking for feedback giving your perspective of the situation instead of them actually observing it?
I think that's a really good question. So I utilize somebody within my department where I trust her very much, and I will say, I want to share a scenario with you, and I want to share my response to it, and I'm wondering if I could have gone about it a different way, right? Because you're right, you're not always going to have someone around to observe. So if you can be very transparent in what happened and not kind of be biased in the way that you interpreted it, right? Like state the facts, and then say, this is what I said, or this is what I did. And I'm kind of looking for your gauge on what I could have done differently or better, or if that was appropriate, and kind of getting a lot of that feedback and asking the right questions, because if you trust the person, they'll tell you, like, man, Kelsey, no, you definitely blew that one away, right? So what are they going to say to you? You might not like it, but how are you going to use that feedback from them, even if they're not there?
This actually happened to me recently. It was an email that I sent to someone, and I did not get the reaction and response that I thought I was going to, and I forwarded it over and said, I'd love some feedback. Like, what can you help me with how to word this in the future so I'm coming off better? And my coworker said, like, you know what, this word structure makes it sound really formal. Maybe walk away from that. Maybe try this instead.
Absolutely, and I think we have time for one more question. How do you de-stress whenever you are stressed?
Yeah, kind of revisiting what you were saying, like for me, it's going for a run, it's going for a walk, it's getting fresh air, it's being in nature. I'm a very nature fanatic, love being outside. So is it putting your feet in the sand at the beach? Is it going to the lake? Is it listening to some, nature sounds? Like, what are you doing to kind of decompress from whatever's going around you? Sometimes it's asking for help, guys. I need that. I need to be good at that. Hey, I'm overwhelmed. I need to step back. Can you watch my kiddos? Or I need to close my computer for a second and come back with a fresh start.
Absolutely. And I know we still have some questions coming in, and you may think of some even after the presentation ends. So any questions we don't get to answer today, please visit SNU Connect after, and we can continue the conversation after the conference as well. And with that, I'm going to turn us over to our final layout here.
Thank you, Kelsey and Amanda and Kathy and everyone for joining us today. This session was enlightening, it was energizing, and it was informative. So I'm so glad that you joined us today. For everyone who's still in the room, please do join us for our next session, which is this evening Thursday, August 13th at 8:30 p.m. It's called Too Good to Be True, Avoiding Common Job Scams. Be sure to join us, and you'll be able to find the link in SNU Connect or in the email with your registration. Thank you for joining us, and everyone have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of Leads.